For example, my function, my f of x, I'm going to say this time what would make my function break? What x would make this thing break? Be careful. I can't have what on the bottom? If x is 0, what would I get what would my function be? 1 over 4? That's a real number. But what we're asking ourselves now is, wait a second. There's probably an x I could put in there that's going to make this thing equal 0. What plus 4 equals 0? Huh. Yeah. In this one, x equals negative 4 is not allowed. So sometimes, guys, it's going to be tricky. In fact, what I do when I'm working on that and when they start getting tricky is I say, oh, well, this is my thought bubble. X plus 4 cannot be equal to 0. And then I solve the thing for x. Minus 4, minus 4. Oh, x cannot be equal to negative 4. So what I do when I'm solving is, if I can't just see it in my mind really fast, I'll take whatever is in the denominator and I set it not equal to what? 0. That's the forbidden thing. It can't be equal to 0. So if I make it equal to 0, well, I say not equal to remind me I'm looking for a bad value. But if I set it equal to 0 there and solve it like regular algebra, subtract 4 on both sides, I get what that forbidden value is. Nice. One more then. Oh, I'll make it really tricky. I'm going to call this function h. H for Henry. Is that going to freak you guys out from the get-go? Maybe, but it shouldn't. That's just the name of the function. The only important part of that whole thing I just wrote was, what's the variable? What's the input? X. Okay. Good to know. Oh, and check it out. Look, I'm doing what you predicted. I'm using x on the right-hand side, since that's the variable I just told you on the left was going to be. Oh, tricky, tricky. If in this question I said, hey guys, what value, what domain values are restricted from this function? 2 and negative 2. Are you sure about that? If I put in a 2, what would I have? Plug 2 in everywhere for x. That's 2 minus 2 is what on top? 0 divided by 2 plus 2 is 0 divided by 4. Is that okay? What is 0 divided by 4? 0. If you don't know, stick it in your calculator. The calculator yells when the math is unhappy. If you put in 0 divided by 4, it'll tell you 0. It'll yell at you if you put it upside down, though. So if you get confused on that, remember the on no I taught you? Use that or type it in your calculator. But the idea is, this problem's trying to trick you. You do not care at all about what's on top of that. Who cares? You only care about what's in the denominator. That's the only time something could be illegal. That's the only time it could be restricted from the math world, is if this bottom stuff is equal to what? Okay, let's talk about it then. Let's talk about only the bottom and what makes it equal to 0. So for my thought bubble, I'm going to say x plus 2 had better not be equal to 0. Minus 2, minus 2. You can do this in your head if you want. What can x not be equal to? Okay. X equal to negative 2, not allowed. The top means nothing to me at this time. Later on when I have like calculus or something, if I look at special stuff with this stuff, maybe I'll care then. But this is discussing the domain, not the range. And for that, all I know is going to break my numbers is the bottom being 0. That's what's not allowed. You don't have to work this one out. I'm going to write it. I know I promised you one more, but here, look. Example. This old one we saw before. I'm using x this time just for kicks. You guys saw something like this a second ago, didn't you? What's not allowed in this one? Are there any restrictions on this? No way. Here's a huge problem, but I don't really care. Restriction-wise, I'm only going to look for what? Making a denominator 0. I don't have any fractions in this problem. Hello. We're safe. Everything's okay. Every value for x is okay. Every value for x, also known as a domain. Fine. There's no fractions. So don't let them trick you with giving you hard problems. All you look at, doesn't matter how complicated I make it, you just focus on the bottom of that fraction. Sometimes there might be more than one thing not allowed. You'll learn that in higher level mathematics. But for right now, you just take that bottom, set it equal to 0, and see what's forbidden. Okay. That's it. That's 4.2. That's a ton of stuff. I know it's been a long lecture tonight. Let me give you guys some homework. I'm going to stop the recording.